And we are live. Welcome everyone to Pioneer Academy on Easter Sunday. First of all, can you all hear me? Sound check and make sure everyone can actually hear me. Hello from SF. Yes, very good. San Francisco, that is, what is the time over there? Probably a little earlier than here. I'm in Central Europe. CET, all is good. Droid is back. Happy Easter, everyone. I just posted something on X, wishing everyone happy Easter and also reminding everyone this is about the victory of life over death for the Christian tradition and for the Germanic tradition. Don't forget, Easter is actually from Eostra, the goddess, the ancient Germanic goddess of Eostra. And they merge these things, you know, Christmas and Easter are these merged things where you take all the Germanic pagan traditions that make it actually sexy. And then everyone wants to buy stuff because it's so cute. And then you merge the Christian stuff in there. And then you have a beautiful thing. And that is what they did with Easter too. Eostra, the Germanic goddess of fertility, light, and the victory of light over darkness. So the Christian perspective of Easter is life over death. The Germanic perspective, light over darkness, not that far off. So very good. We have Canada there. We have the pioneers. We have Switzerland. We have Georgia. We have Ohio. We have Seattle. We have the whole world. Well, it's not the whole world, but the most important parts. Great to have you here. We have interesting stuff going on today. France. Wow. France is more rare. Great to have France on board. And London, Albuquerque, New Mexico, where Microsoft was not founded, but they struck their first important deal in Albuquerque. Today we have some very interesting things going on because we are revamping Pioneer Lands, or we have revamped. Well, it's in the middle of it. And I think it's a very important update that will help us get a lot of stuff done. Chica Holland. What is Chica Holland? Tampa, Arizona. Pool Shirt Mike. I remember Pool Shirt Mike. Soon will have a robotaxi job and is our man, the boots on the ground in Arizona. And we have Germany. Mikkels, Germany. Interesting news from Germany. You can't get out anymore for more than 3 months. You have to report to the Bundeswehr because they don't want to let you out anymore. Okay, so what we have going on, let me introduce to you the new structure of Pioneer Lands, because I made some changes after discussing it with the team that I think will be very, very important. And we are in the middle of it, but let's see. I will explain it to you now. Here is the new overview. What is this? Home page. So what we are doing here, this is the Pioneer Academy. And what we are doing here, very importantly, is structure that into 10 central themes, okay? The 10 central themes are the 6 Pioneer Alpha themes that you're all familiar with. AGI, predict the path to artificial general intelligence. NVIDIA, AMD, Anthropic, OpenAI, of course, Grok, and Tesla, as far as chips are concerned. Then we have robots. We have humanoid robots. We have Tesla Optimus, but all the other robots too. These are macro themes or bigger themes. It's not just about Tesla. Of course, Tesla plays a central role. But here we want to do research on the actual robot trajectory and how the humanoids are going to come to be and taking over different parts of the economy. We have autonomy, autonomous transport, of course. We have space with a focus on AI, the path to the Dyson sphere, right, to orbital AI data center, SpaceX, Tesla, NVIDIA, maybe Amazon and Blue Origin, who knows? So what is the space race going to look like? We have AI blockchain. I know we are not talking about this enough, but I'm actually heavily invested also in outside the Pioneer Alpha portfolio for historic reasons. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and the build out of the AI blockchain, which is very important because it unlocks hyper growth. It doesn't drive hyper growth like Tesla, for example, but it unlocks an automated financial system. The tokenization of all financial assets on Ethereum mostly is very important to observe. And Bitcoin is, of course, a reserve currency. Then we have macro. Right now we talk about Iran all day long, but this will be over soon, one way or the other. Macro is more about the bigger themes like inflation, like unemployment, very tied into AGI and so on and so forth. And then we have maybe the most important thing, AI income. This is about Pioneer Alpha. It's about the Pioneer bonds. It's also about your portfolios and AI stocks, how we manage them in portfolios, and how we actually prepare ourselves as individuals, as families, but also as countries for that future that is imminent now, that everyone loses their job. Of course, we can be entrepreneurs or pioneers, but the main income source will become capital and return on capital. And that will impact us. It's very important that we are on top of it. That's why we are all here, right? We want to understand how we trade and build portfolios, how new systems like the Pioneer bonds can help if you want to. They help me. And how we can smoothen out the volatility, actually generate income systematically, but also capture the upside of these amazing stocks from NVIDIA to Tesla to maybe MicroStrategy, more controversial, but the other Mac 7 and so on and so forth. The difference is Pioneer Alpha, by the way, these are our predictive research areas where we say, how do we understand the most important themes? AGI trajectory, robots, autonomous transport and robot trucking, by the way, space build out, the most important of all, AI blockchain, the underlying systems of capital allocation, and of course, macro, all the stuff on macro. This helps us predict the future, make us better investors. This year then condenses it into the central problem. How do we generate maximum income for us? And how do we actually help our countries to prepare our economies so everyone maximizes their AI income, so everyone is prepared, ideally. And here we can also analyze countries. How well are different countries prepared for this? And then Pioneer Lands this will be about analyzing the future and understanding it, Pioneer Alpha. Pioneer Lands is about how do we build and rebuild high civilization, Pioneer Lands. How do we create an income system for everyone so we have an economy in the age of AGI? But then we continue. How do we build new education systems, Pioneer Academy? How do we make sure people actually learn the right stuff, which they don't right now? Family, you know that we are all dying out, not perfect, will lead to a complete implosion and the end of civilization. So this needs to be fixed. And society, don't get me started. This is about governance, politics, culture, media. So these are complicated themes. For now, we will not focus on them over the next week or weeks. We focus on getting Pioneer Alpha off the ground and AI income. This will be the spicy, dicey stuff and more complex, but it actually is related to the stuff on the left. So that is the quick overview here. Let me just check the comments. Okay, let's see. Done waiting 42 hours. Oh, wow. You waited 42 hours. From Sverige. We have even Sverige on board. Pioneer Lands, greeting from Santa Fe, New Mexico. You're missing genomics. Well, I think genomics, you know, my background is in genomics, so I take it seriously, but I don't think genomics is a centerpiece of the whole thing. It could be added here maybe, but I'm also extremely unexcited about genomics as an investment theme because you see it with ARK Invest, they totally failed on genomics. The problem with genomics is, even though the technology is exciting, it's not comparable to AGI or robots and so on and so forth. When it comes to life extension and immortality and these things, genomics is just a tiny little piece of the equation. You need proteomics, you need all kinds of other stuff. And the problem is that it's not really an investable business, right? Believe me, I have been there. I know everything about this stuff. It's a horrible business. It's completely corrupted. nothing works over there. On the scientific side, sure, it's interesting on the technological side, but the conversion from technology into money, into stocks, is completely broken when it comes to healthcare, anything related. Because you basically have a completely broken and corrupted system that is designed to keep us all sick and dying, not dead, but dying. That's how all the money is being made. And if you invent anything in genomics, you have to basically prove how does it not cure cancer, and how does it keep us sick, and how does it allow the drug companies to make more money, and then they buy you and shut it down. Not a joke. I've been there. So I'm not excited about genomics as an investment theme. We first have to fix the overarching problem in healthcare before this becomes even a thing. That's why ARC lost so much money in genomics, because this is actually not connected to technology, the whole thing. So that was my little rant here. Not saying genomics is not important, but you understand we have to fix the whole system first before this becomes a thing. Yeah, regulation, FDA, but we have to understand it's like the media, regulation, FDA. It's not that they are dummies and they don't know how to fix the system. They actually actively try to not fix it. And if you try to fix it, you have a problem. So not good. And FDA is just a tiny little sliver of the problem. It's about the payers, the insurance systems in Europe. It's the governments. It's the whole thing is really, really bad. And COVID, don't get me started. So how are we going to do this? Let me explain. I'm super excited about this, even though this is early stage here. Can I now actually update the news? Probably not. We have also developed an OpenClaw news aggregator that is actually pretty effective. If you click on autonomy, you see that the news we are aggregating here is actually pretty good. Waymo hits 500K. It provides a summary here. You can read the most important news and click then on the sources. And we are constantly improving this. This just has started, so you will see the last week's news summarized here. That is our first technology for this. And we are determined to have the best news flow for each of the spaces. And you guys can help, of course, with feedback. Number 2, we will have research. That's in the works. I hope to get this done very soon, like over the next couple of days. We will have research missions by tomorrow for each of the fields. You will see very systematic research missions. I can give you a peek behind the scenes. What about this? So you see what we are working on here. This is briefed already in Lovable, and the vibe coding thing will be appearing on the website tomorrow. But basically, this is a big announcement, by the way. I'm working on a new system for the live streams. We will have 3 live streams per week now. And we will make these live streams theme specific, right? So we will have 3 streams, but they are broken into 30-minute sessions. So if you're only interested in robots, for example, you look up robots, you just go to Pioneer Lands and click on robots, and you will see here actually on robots. That's not implemented yet, but here you will actually see the specific next robot session. That will be there. I hope next week we get this all implemented. And then you can tune in Monday, 6 p.m. CET, which is the equivalent of noon Eastern time and 9 a.m. PT. Sorry, we have to see who can tune in when. We'll still have the Sunday session. But for robots, that will be the slot, Monday, 6 p.m. And it's like a little academy. And then people can join. And what we are going to discuss there is the news, what happened in robot land, right? But we will also discuss the models, the financial and quantitative and economic models. And I'm talking Google Sheets. And then all of you, whoever wants it, can actually copy the Google Sheet and start building your own model and submitting it. So I know that not many people will do that, but we just want to capture the handful of people who like building models so we can collaboratively model them. You submit it. You can click Submit Research. I see it. I will then merge it, and our people here will merge it, and then we'll cover it in the next week. And over time, we are going to build an amazing robot model. Now, some of these models are already there, of course. Autonomy is pretty much done. The space model, we have a good version, a beta version. So I'll share those. You can see them as a researcher, and then you can copy it and improve it and send it back. And we will cover this every week to go through the models. And then, of course, the questions. You know the questions. You can post questions. And the idea here is to make this a little bit more active academy. Here you see the agenda. So that's my current agenda that we will implement in the system. And we will have these 3 sessions, 90 minutes, broken down into 30-minute sessions. So if you like robots, you can tune in on Monday. If you like space, you can tune in on Wednesday. If you like AI blockchain, 60 minutes later on Wednesday. Sunday will be general Pioneer Lands, AI income, and AGI. And so that's the plan. And what I'm trying to establish here is a cadence so we can specialize and get really good in building these models, because I want these models. Because all these models are actually flowing then into the stocks. Because in order to predict yesterday's video, if you have seen my video from yesterday, I started modeling out a little bit the CapEx and AI bubble question with a nice little model. And these models can be more improved and will then be used to predict, are we in a bubble, are we not in a bubble? We are totally not in a bubble, by the way. That's what I showed yesterday. We're actually in a tremendous ROI explosion for the hyperscalers. And that will help us then determine if NVIDIA's revenue keeps going up. It will determine if the terafab of Tesla will be profitable out of the gate and things like that. The macro models are very important. Here, cities as pioneer land. They will not allow it. Bad example of freedom and governance for the others. I know, it will shut us down. But for now, we're not being shut down. We will survive. And so that's basically what's going on here. Here are all the detailed models and description, how they work, but you can check them out hopefully tomorrow on the Pioneer Lands website. They will be, so I invite you to go to these and check them out. Okay. Another news, we have a new app. I'm going to show you a new app. You can go there right now. Some of you already found it. And that app is our stock target app. So you can basically click on targets. It's on the left side here. Let me expand this. Targets. You click on targets on pioneerlands.org. And then you see all these different stocks. You can also, I think, add more stocks, or not yet, but you can say which ones you want. If you click on this one, oops, you can add a ticker, right? And then they will occur, like we have Amazon, for example, 8 people. Real-time counter. We want Amazon, we want Apple, we want Google, we want Palantir, we want Microsoft. And so you can add your ticker, and these ones is what we have. But here's the interesting thing. Okay, if you go on here, you can start entering your own targets and compare it with analysts. So you can basically click on NVIDIA, for example. You can click in your target, your 12 months price target. Mine is actually high. I don't have the model yet, but let's say I say 290. And then it occurs here. Boom, it appears here. And the interesting thing is, you have the analysts here, right? You see Vivek Arya of Bank of America says 300, CJ Muse, Harlan Su of JP Morgan, so we have all the analysts with their targets. We see the average analyst target. We will soon have more sophisticated analytics if you want that. You can also knock them out and say, I hate Bank of America, get rid of Cantor Fitzgerald, who needs them, Piper Sandler, get rid of them. And then you see the new average of whatever you have left here, right? And that tells you the analysts. But most importantly, if you go to Tesla, you also see the community. So your vote counts because it will be reflected in the community average, right? And we will have soon much more sophisticated analytics. Here where we see, of course, no one individual will be named, but you will see statistics like what do people from Sweden in the community think versus people from Australia versus the Americans versus your city maybe, right? So I think this is a fun little game that is more than a game because we can tap into the brains of all of you to get target estimates. And your favorite tickers can be added here, and we will, manage this a little bit. What happens if I click here? Oh, 13. Why is it 13? Oh, I can click on this and vote for it. Why is it so many? Is it just changed in real time? Probably. Very interesting. So you can basically vote for this, and then they will be added here. We will, of course, constantly improve the UI. Do you guys see this? Yes. North Cyprus. Wow. So that is our new stock target app. This is really more for us in Pioneer Lands to see who thinks what and get the most accurate predictions of what is going on. Let's go back to the Academy. So now it's time for some questions. Where are our questions? I'm going to questions. Present. Let's hope this actually works in the new system. We have 3 questions. Stocks, AGI, they're mixed, yes. So that should work. So let's go to the first question. Do we see this here? Yes. Spain. Vamos. My Spanish is pretty bad, but Quebec. We have everyone here. So the first question from Shane, 8 votes, is April an inflection point? If so, how should we position to generate alpha given an informational or timing edge? Well, this is a tricky question. We have heard you consistently discuss generating alpha on Tesla through the alpha churn strategy, not just the alpha churn strategy, there are some other strategies too. And it's clearly been working very well so far this year. You also reference a potential April 1,800 robotaxi inflection point. With that in mind, how should we be preparing our accounts to best align with this timing? Well, that is a very good question because we are living in crazy times. In case you didn't notice, we had a little tweet today from POTUS, and it's a little interesting. Here, in case you didn't, here is the tweet, and I'm not kidding you. You think, if you haven't seen this thing, you will think, Joe, this is fake news, it's AI. No, it's not. So the president tweeted today on Easter Sunday the following: Tuesday will be power plant day and bridge day, all wrapped up in one in Iran. There will be nothing like it. Open the effing strait, you crazy bastards, or you'll be living in hell. Just watch. Praise be to Allah. President Donald J. Trump. So obviously that doesn't calm down people because it sounds like, I don't know how it sounds, but that is literally what is happening. And now we have to see what happens on Monday. Probably nothing good. Then we have to see what happens on Tuesday. Is this a trick and Trump just wants to shut it all down, or is he going to actually start bombing civilian infrastructure and everything? Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern time. This message was from today, so this is pretty recent. And so we don't know what's exactly happening. It's going to be very hard for Trump, I think, to postpone the deadline again. So it's coming to some form of thing. And the problem is that no one can tell anymore what's happening here. And that is dangerous for stocks, including Tesla. Now, if you ask me, am I bullish on Tesla for April? The answer is yes. I'm bullish for Tesla, not the stock, because the stock will be at the mercy of this whole stuff, right? If you have a stock market crash, if for some reason the United States starts blowing up the entire oil infrastructure in the Middle East together with Iran, if they start blowing up each other oil infrastructure and oil goes to 200 or 300 or whatever it goes to, which it absolutely will, and the Houthis in Yemen start bombing everything on the strait and shut down the other strait too, 12 to 15% of global trade going through that strait, the Red Sea, I mean, at some point, the market is just going to cave and crash. You can't like endlessly destroy the economy. So, of course, you know that I was always of the opinion that this is all fake news and we never get there. But I changed my mind on this since early last week and said, no one knows. This is high risk. No one knows if Trump has a magic plan, if this is 5D chess, if he lost his marbles, if something is totally wrong. No one knows anymore. It's clearly not predictable anymore. And markets don't like that. And the chance of this escalating is high, or is a given, right? It's some chance. And we should not kid ourselves. If this escalates, there is severe damage to the global economy that will not be repaired very quickly. So that's the scary part. Obviously, a lot of believers still say it's not going to happen, it's not going to be bad. So that's the problem, that we have to watch out for this. Now, independent of this, right? Independent of this, Smart AI Money 26, oh boy, but is he really serious? Like, I don't know if he's serious. Clearly no one knows, but he tweeted this. So that is the problem. So we have to now, I don't know, deal with it. So what would happen if the world crashes, right? Let's just think in the scenarios. We have two layers. We have the macro layer and we have the Tesla layer. Tesla can go down as a company on CyberCap or can go up. The world can go down or the world can go up. So you have basically 4 quadrants. What happens if peace in Iran, CyberCap scales? Well, you know what happens. We go to 600 in no time. What happens if all hell breaks loose in Iran and the Middle East and CyberCap scales? Well, it gets a little tricky. What if the NASDAQ crashes 10% more, dragging down Tesla 20%, $60, right, to 320, maybe 300, while at the same time CyberCap scaling starts? Incredibly difficult to predict that. Obviously, Tesla is going to drop much less. Is it going to rally in the middle of a market crash because of its own fundamentals? Very hard to tell. It's probably offsetting it, right? Maybe Tesla stays at 380 if it scales while the market crashes. What happens if Tesla just simply fails to scale and the market rallies? Hard to tell. I would say Tesla is probably going to go up a little bit, but less than its beta, right? What happens if Tesla fails to scale and we have a market crash? Well, then good night. Then we have a problem. Then we are going back to 220. So these are the scenarios, and then we have to dissect each scenario. As I mentioned, on the macro level, it's extremely difficult to predict this at this point. On the Tesla level, here's my thinking. Everything I see around CyberCap makes me bullish. Everything. It makes me especially bullish that most people are not bullish because I say we waited 10 years, 5 years for this to happen. It never happened, so it still will not happen now. That is the wrong thinking. 14.3 is out. We're still watching what people say, but people already say FSD is really good. I hear this again and again from people. FSD is basically done. We see CyberCap is ready to scale, right? The production is clearly ready. There is no doubt in my mind that CyberCap production is ready to scale, which makes it a little more tricky. Will it scale, right? If it doesn't scale, we know it's not the production problem. We know it's an FSD problem. My gut feeling is we will see some major movement or some very important initial movement in April. Will we get to 1,800? Probably not. Definitely not unsupervised. But we don't need to get to my number of 1,800 unsupervised to get much higher share prices here. My 1,800 were the inflection point. I said, if that happens, we are off to the races. We are going towards 1,000. That's what I said. Now, when this will happen, maybe it happens in April. Unlikely at this point, in my opinion. But it could definitely happen in May. So forget the 1,800 for now. This is my forcing function. When 1,800 happens and we are on a track to multiple tens of thousands, I think we are on track to 1,000. The question is what happens before. And for me, the key thing to observe on the CyberCap situation is that we have to look for when does cybercap unsupervised actually starts to scale, even if it's to multiple dozens or something. We have to really watch out for that. Let's see what we see here on X. Share this tab instead. Do we guys see this? No. Let's share this cybercap X tab and scroll through this a little bit. Farzad, of course, insisting on his crazy theory. Farzad absolutely thinks there will be a steering wheel and everything. I think he will be wrong about this. We see the cyber cap here being serviced. So people observe this all over the place. We saw this in February, so nothing too new here. This is probably fake news that anything happens here. This is all fake. Elon chip design reviews are so fun. So we see nothing new right now. There's nothing of relevance to actually show. The robotaxi tracker is also not too exciting. We had like 550 or something. Not bad, but not a game changer. We are exactly at 550 today, by the way. Where's the robotaxi tracker here? Share this tab instead. Why does it not change it? Stop sharing, stop sharing. That's weird. You can't see the robotaxi tracker. What if I close this one? Very interesting. Somehow you guys cannot see the robotaxi tracker that I'm sharing. But anyway, so this is what's happening. I'm trying to get you guys the robotaxi tracker here so you can actually see what's happening. Maybe I have to stop sharing this and start again. So the robotaxi tracker, let's try it this way. Here you should be able to see it. 550 robotaxis. We have 94 in Austin. We have 456 in the Bay Area. That's quite a lot. 9 unsupervised, not too much changing there. So this is what everyone is staring at. Of course, this thing is not reliable, by the way, but it's some approximation of whatever is going on. By the way, we have also the Tesla FSD miles approaching 10 billion. We just crossed the 9 billion level. So this is very important. And Elon said that 10 billion is the critical amount. And so we are very close to these 10 billion. This is coming together now in Q2, which is very interesting. So that is kind of the situation. So what, to your point, to back to the question, what does that all mean for the stock? Are we having an inflection point? Is it coming? Should we buy? Should we sell? That is what I'm pondering myself. On Tesla, I'm incredibly bullish for Q2. I think we are absolutely bullish. The tricky part will be what happens next on Iran. The challenge is whatever happens next is probably going to happen next week. And if we see a major escalation, I think the market has to reprice the risk and damage being done to the global economy. So unfortunately, we will continue to have significant downside risk here, as long as this is not put aside. Once this Iran war is over, I do think we are setting up for a giant rally because AI is expanding like crazy. Tesla is doing all these crazy things. They're all becoming real, but we need to get over the macro problem. And so far, it looks like very dark on that side. It looks like things will go south a little bit. So Make of that whatever you want. Elon pointed out that fate loves irony. So with that said, which scenario you just walked us through concerning robotaxi would represent the most ironic outcome in regards to timing? Well, unfortunately, the answer is very simple. The most ironic outcome, if it's the most likely, would be Tesla dropping dramatically to 200, just for fun, just before it goes to 1,000. That would, of course, be the highest drama. How would we get to 200? First of all, nothing happening in April and the market crashing and cybercap not scaling, which could very easily happen, by the way. We are just talking about a few weeks. If the sentiment sours on the market and we see a crash, which is absolutely possible, absolutely, and Tesla just not moving, we could absolutely get back to 200. And if then the market Iran problem stops at some point, it has to stop in May, in June, whatever, and Tesla suddenly starts scaling cybercap, boom, we are going to 1,000. That would be, unfortunately, the most ironic and entertaining outcome. But I would, of course, we can't just bet on this being true. We have so many questions here. Let's see. Let's put it on the big screen. Hello, you. What do you think is the latest date the SpaceX IPO happens? Do you think the Iran issues affect the timeline for the IPO? I heard a very interesting theory on the IPO. I heard the theory, what is the biggest competition for SpaceX? You will not think of what I actually am getting to. The biggest competitor for SpaceX is OpenAI and Anthropic. I'm talking about the IPO, because an IPO means you're sucking money out of institutions and they can't give everyone money. And the biggest IPOs this year will be OpenAI and Anthropic outside SpaceX. And so the theory goes, that's why SpaceX wants to accelerate. Plus, Elon is also a smart cookie. He knows this Iran situation could probably badly escalate. The problem with Iran is the damage being done is so huge and is not priced in. And once this actually trickles down and gets into effect, all these super large oil tankers and all kinds of stuff that's being stuck and not getting to the ports, that will hit us in May, probably end of April. The actual effects of what happened so far. And then it will always be delayed. And then it can clearly quickly escalate and destroy the entire economy globally, because then suddenly no one has oil anymore. So it will be different if we hit this oil problem end of April and in May, delayed from March in all these countries, India, China, and so on. But at the same time, Iran is settled, let's say end of April. The markets will discount. It's like, yeah, it's very nasty and we have giant spikes, but everyone knows it's over and we just have to now get over this gap in May and June. But if it's not over and it's unclear how long this lasts, while everyone gets absolutely hammered on oil, that could create a little bit of a panic. That's another reason why this war is really on a clock. If it's not stopped while the wave of destruction hits, the wave will hit, okay? But we better have this war ended when the destruction wave hits. Because if destruction hits and the war is not over, and was like, oh, we are getting destroyed and there is no light at the end of the tunnel, ooh, this could get very ugly. So maybe Elon understands all these things and thinks the same thing and wants to accelerate the IPO for many reasons. OpenAI, Anthropic being competitors, global situation not getting better. And so I think the IPO might happen sooner than later, probably June. Nothing to do with Tesla merger. That's a whole different situation. Elon pointed out that fate loves irony. Exactly, I talked about this. Poor energy sales will drive Q1 earnings down, yes. Market reprices, but then goes up later. Makes no sense. Do we ask questions here on YouTube or on Pioneer Lands? I cannot find how to post a question, even though I'm a premium subscriber. Okay, so let me show you. Well, now the new site is up. I hope this actually works, but let me show you how this works. You go here. you go to the area, like if you have a cybercab question, you go to autonomy, please. Now we are specific, and you click on create, and you click on question. I think I need to make this simpler. But do you guys see this? So you click on create. I will make this simpler. There should be just ask a question, big and fat. You should also join the space. So each space now should be joined, because then we see how many members we have per space. We want to do everything more by space. You can do as many spaces as you want, but maybe you are not interested in AI blockchain and you only want to know robots, autonomy, and space. So just join these spaces, click here, join, and then you can click create and question, and then you get to your questions and can ask them. Okay, that's how it works. Basically, I don't understand fear and selling ever. Yes, a button saying ask a question is much simpler. Yeah, I will definitely change that. This is too confusing. I agree. That's why I need you guys' feedback. Okay, let's continue. Let's go to questions and present and see what the next question is. The $3 trillion question, should Tesla shareholders force a merger with SpaceX next year? Well, they can't force it, I guess. But Elon Musk has publicly stated that loyalty needs to be rewarded. Yes. SpaceX unified with XAI, blah, blah, blah. This entity now controls, blah, blah, blah. That's true. Orbital data centers, yes, yes, yes. Financial synergy. So yes, we know all of these things. Thanks for the question, Anonymous. Obviously, I do think the probability of a merger between SpaceX and Tesla is close to 100%. The question is the timing. Is it going to happen this year? Is it going to happen next year? Or when is it going to happen? I don't think it's going to happen in 3 years. It has to happen soon, because we're entering into a completely crazy phase of history. And at the center of that entire crazy tsunami stands SpaceX, and to some extent Tesla. And I think people completely don't get it. Some people get it. That's why the SpaceX IPO is looking pretty good and everyone's in. But I think the whole crazy scale of what's going to happen next is not clear to people. I think Starship is going to be ready end of this year or latest in 2027 to actually be reusable. Will dramatically push down the cost to orbit below $200 per kilogram. And from there, it will be an enormous, insane unlock of space AI. Because I had a video in November on that, quick math, and we are going to do more research on this and having better models very soon in the Pioneer Academy. It's very simple. Once we have this done, all AI compute build out will move to space immediately, because it will be immediately cheaper and better than on Earth. Terrestrial AI has no chance against space AI because energy is effectively free in space. And once the build out costs are reasonable because of Starship, everything will move to space. That's the first big revelation. Okay, all build out will move to space. Second, this will happen sooner than people think. It will happen in 2027, the kickoff. That is why SpaceX needs an IPO and money. They need 75 billion. Why? I tell you why. They have to build mass manufacturing of Starship. They need tens of thousands of Starships, because there will be unlimited money and unlimited demand for transporting AI satellites into space. I'm not exaggerating, it's unlimited. And the third thing we need to understand, and that is the function why we need the AGI model in our research teams. This whole thing is a function of AGI, because AGI unlocks unlimited economic potential, because it replaces white-collar jobs and brings down the cost for a white-collar job by 10x or something. That's a pricing question. You will be able to hire the most advanced white-collar specialists for a 10th or 20th of the cost. That money will create demand for AI chips and AI compute, and there will be not enough energy. but it will be available in space. So there's an enormous forcing function up to space. That is why this is so big. And of course, Tesla plays a central role because Tesla will have the robots we need for that and the chips, terafab, plus the demand because it needs actually the compute. So all of this is very important that we merge these two companies, but you can't force it, obviously. Elon will decide when it makes sense, sooner than later. At the same time, you can't rush it. It's not going to be in June, in my opinion, because this is a giant operation. It will be much easier once SpaceX is public. SpaceX needs to be public before, because otherwise pricing of this merger becomes impossible. Once both are public, you have publicly determined price discovery. That makes it much harder to sue against that, whatever price is chosen, because it's now public. You can't, you can't doubt the public market price discovery for Tesla and for SpaceX, and then you merge them. So it will be up to us in Pioneer Lands, plus the Tesla tubers and influencers, to make sure everyone gets the message, and not too many Tesla shareholders say, we don't want to merge. This is just delayed cash flow and all kinds of stuff. So that's why we are modeling out the SpaceX exact cash flow model, probably done in 4 weeks or something. You guys can join. That's why I showed you the Pioneer Academy. I will show you more. And that is all very important. But I think merger is inevitable. It's just a lot of work. That's why it's not going to happen instantaneously. Okay, on that topic, Alexandra says that if there's a merger, we Tesla holders will get a premium. So we better off buying Tesla shares. What are your thoughts on it? Do you share the same opinion? Yes. I am not a big friend of SpaceX IPO shares. I think they will be overvalued. I think it's probably easier for SpaceX to have a higher valuation than Tesla, depending on cybercap and everything. And I do think Tesla is a better investment for now, because they will merge one way or the other. And SpaceX will have multiple issues. It will be too bubbly. They will have a PE of 500 plus, while having much lower revenues and margins than Tesla. EBITDA or free cash flow. Not much lower, but lower. And I think the stock will be susceptible to dropping after the IPO. I think Tesla is more stable and is, close to an inflection point. Plus, we might get a premium if SpaceX is the acquirer. Joe, is it possible Tesla has negative cash flow with it overproducing 50,000 cars? You mean like cybercaps? It all depends what happens on cybercap. These cybercaps are incredible cash flow machines once they actually work, once FSD works. So people say, oh, they have all the CapEx up front and then it takes forever for them to become profitable. That's not true. Just do the math. In my math, depending how you exactly math it, you make up to $50,000 a year in margin on these things. Let's make it 30,000 in margin. That's still 6 times more than you make on one Model Y sold. So the Model Y costs $10,000 more probably on COGS. So cybercap is 50% cheaper to manufacture, but it has the equivalent margin of 6 Model Ys per year. So that means in year 1, this is already super profitable, the whole situation. Well, you have to do the math. Of course, you're only getting that margin. So if you pay $20,000 COGS and you put it on your own balance sheet as CapEx, well, what did you ask about cash flow or about profit? So yeah, on the cash flow side, even on the cash flow side, you will be cash flow positive on the cybercap within the same year. You basically spend $20,000 on your cost of goods sold or not sold, cost of goods. Then you run this thing, and after 2/3 of the year, you're already cash flow positive on that thing. And from there, it's just a complete cash flow explosion. Of course, assuming that it works, right? That you can deploy them commercially. So I'm not too concerned. And you also have to consider that debt is relatively cheap for companies like Tesla. It's not hard to bridge these gaps with debt. It's extremely easy if that's needed. So I'm not too concerned. What are odds that SpaceX stock price drops much lower a few weeks? Well, very high, Richie. I think it's very high. That's why I'm not into the IPO. I think it's extremely likely that you get the stock cheaper than at IPO down the road, 12 months down. Will you think that regulators will be able to block Tesla SpaceX merger? I think under the Trump administration, it's very unlikely, extremely unlikely, because it's a national security issue. And merging is good for the United States. At least that's what they will think. And the interesting thing here is that the magic of Elon is that you're crossing lots of different industries. So you're not building a monopoly on anything existing, right? SpaceX already is a monopoly in space, so it doesn't matter. But it's high national security priority. And then it merges with cybercabs and robots and all these other things. So I don't think there's any competitive or monopoly issue on this whole thing, interestingly enough. I don't think Tesla overproduced. A portion of the 50K is probably purchased in portions inventory, or Tesla is expecting a large order in Q2. I have no concerns about these 50,000. Okay, let's continue to the next question. Last one. 1.7 million cybercaps to match 1/4 of NVIDIA's profit. Ooh. Now we have to do math. Is it true that Tesla would need about 1.7 million cybercaps generating 50,000 profit per year each just to match NVIDIA's profit in Q4 2025? Well, NVIDIA's profit is pretty high, so maybe. $22 billion in profit in that quarter. Is that much per quarter? So we can also not do it per quarter. If you make basically 80 billion in profit. Yeah, I think that just on the back of the napkin, that makes roughly sense. Because we have to understand, if Tesla would make $90 billion in profit, that's 18 times more than now. So yes, 1.7 million cybercaps, that could work out to this. So I think you're roughly right with this, but you also have to put this into perspective. If you increase Tesla's profit by that much, I don't know what you mean. I don't know the exact NVIDIA numbers, what profit means. This is EBITDA or whatever it is. But that's like 10 to 15 times more profit than Tesla has right now. Plus, if they get to 1.7 million, they also get to 17 million. So they are on a growth trajectory way larger than NVIDIA and would get a way higher PE on that than NVIDIA, which means if they get to NVIDIA's profit, I would say Tesla is a 10 or 15 trillion dollar company, because NVIDIA is a 5 trillion or 4 trillion, whatever it is right now. So this math actually makes sense when you think about it. Tesla would get a vastly higher PE than NVIDIA on this, because the growth rate, or the growth outlook, not even the rate, NVIDIA has a crazy growth rate, but the growth outlook would be much, much more clean and clear than for NVIDIA. At least the market would see it like this, because it's a wide blue ocean market, whereas NVIDIA has to always fight with the narrative that their existing market is actually going to expand so much. So yeah, that all makes sense. We just have to understand Tesla wouldn't be a $5 trillion company with that. It would be a $15 trillion company. So it would be 10 times higher the stock. So here we are talking about whatever, $4,000 or something stock price. Yes, so that is the situation. That is the situation on this topic. I can just invite you guys to come back to Pioneer Lens. I would say come back tomorrow. Check out tomorrow or Tuesday. We will have much more news than accumulated here, because our open claw is always scanning the world on the latest. We probably have another live show then, because I want to start this Pioneer Academy specifically for the topics. So if you're interested in any of these topics, watch out, go on the topic, join the space so you get updates on the space. And this is all like new. We are fine-tuning everything. I will update the question so it's more easy to find. We'll then display the members here. The members, do we have members yet? Yeah, you see members. Do we have so many members? So you can click on members, and this will be a little bit complementing our cities app, by the way. So you can actually see the other members. If you join research, look, so cool. What is this? Autonomy. We also have chapter lead election. You can run as a candidate for chapter lead. We had last session the proposal to use the city's structure where you can run for mayor in a city and use that here. So we do the same thing. You can become the lead for this chapter and then have certain tasks you can do, manage this chapter a little bit. So if you think you're the best in space, you can run as chapter lead and the members in space can vote on you. There will be many more very soon. And look at the space people, Zagreb, Münster, Geneva. It's filling up, even though it was just launched. Very good. And then we can do that. By the way, we have also the forum here. Let's see if this loads successfully. That still has loading issues, but this leads you to the old, here, see? We restructured also our Pioneer Lands core thing. So we have now these different topics that reflect these topics. You see how this is going. If you click on forum, you get directly to space AI, AI blockchain, macro, and so on and so forth. So we restructured everything. We assigned the old contributions to these new spaces. And that is how this works. So here we can have all the discussions in the world. This should be structured a little different. Here you see, I show you the inside, how this actually works. The beast from the inside. Look like this. And I think then it should restructure it. Not really. Oh, what's going on here? Customize. I want the look to be different. List. Save changes, and now we have it. Yeah, this is how it should look like, the space. Air blockchain. This looks correct. Macro. We see all these things, AGI, robots. Yes, everything looking good. So here you can post anything you want and have discussions with everyone. That is how this works. On research, ooh, it's implemented now. It's coming together. Here we will actually see the briefings that are still missing. I will add this very soon. So we will see all these models we are building for the AI satellite timeline, for the Starship launch timeline, and SpaceX as a business timeline. These will be our research areas, and then you can basically join them if you want. And we are building these Google Sheets out, the financial models for this whole thing. And then we will have a world model that predicts the entire future of AGI. That's how it's going to work. Casey, very good. Thanks for posting the question. Flying to Phoenix. Taking off now, no internet connection. Thanks, Joe. Richie, good. Have a good flight. I hope the TSA is fixed. I don't know if it's fixed. I pray for you that the TSA is fixed and you don't have to wait 10 hours. Yeah, so we are working on this. I'm super excited about it. I hope you guys follow this. It's still like work in progress, but I think I'm really pushing this hard to get it really organized. And the idea is very simple. I do believe that these quantitative models are the key to understanding the future. Because if you put the numbers together and have smart people looking over it, these models are very powerful. I saw it with Tesla, and we can do it all across the board now. We can then use AI, by the way, our lovable system, to create meta models once we have the core models, very simply, easily, and connect them all, right? If the AGI timeline informs you about the super demand for compute, space tells you how much compute we will have in space at what price. Robots tell you how we replace blue-collar jobs at what rate. Autonomy tells you how fast we actually scale the robotaxis and also have chip demand. AI blockchain tells you about ETH and Bitcoin. And macro tells you about inflation and jobs, where this all accumulates into. And then, of course, AI income is the key. How do we make money with it? How do we learn about portfolio construction? And what stocks are the most promising based on these insights? It's going to be a lot of fun. But I want to have a disciplined approach of modeling out everything and having smart teams on all these things. Because we can, because we are Pioneer Lands. And once we are done with these first 7, Pioneer Alpha and AI income, the real fun starts, and we talk about the things that truly change the world: education, family, and society. We have to be cautious and be smart, and also use quantitative models. That will be my big surprise for everyone, that I can quantify all these things and put it into actually engineering models with KPIs and metrics, so we can actually operationalize this whole topic. And it's going to be a lot of fun. We are going to build a world model. That's the plan. Mississippi. Hi to Mississippi. Maybe this is the first time we overproduce with Tesla. I don't think so. Elon seems to be in a very good mood, by the way. I don't buy this whole panic situation. I think Tesla, even though the numbers in energy drop, but who cares about, I mean, energy is on a super growth path. I'm not too concerned. And it always goes like unpredictably, because it's about these super big orders. And sometimes they're just not registered in this quarter. On the EV side, like, you need to look at EVs and Tesla sales in a relative way. This Tesla is so huge at this point that they're also going with the whole car market. So you don't just have to look how much Tesla grows. You also have to look how much it grows in comparison to the other guys. If you didn't notice, Tesla beat this quarter BYD. Tesla is back to number 1 in the world, and BYD is beaten. So these are very important details, while all the OEMs going down in flames. I predicted that 2027 is going to be the bloodbath. 2027 is where you see everyone going out of business, in my opinion, the OEMs. On a massive scale, they're just toast. And Tesla's just gaining ground. Tesla's gaining ground all over the place, in Europe, in the United States, in market share terms, even though the credits are expired. So sure, in absolute terms, doesn't look too great, but in relative terms, Tesla is taking over. So that's all I need. Thank you, Lee Renders. Yes, I think it's a good vision. I'm very bullish on it because I know exactly what we need to do. Models, I like models. Not like you think, dirty people. Of course, I like also these models, but I also like my quantitative models. And that's very nice. These quantitative models, if you identify the right metrics on the right timelines, you can truly force all our knowledge into the right model and actually hit what truly matters for the future. And all these topics are, of course, tightly correlated, interrelated, not correlated, interrelated. Are you going to miss the Model S and X? Of course I'm going to miss them, especially Model S. They were such nice cars. My dad has an S, and he was bummed he can't get a newer one in several years. It's true. The S was amazing. I think the X can easily be replaced by, I'm not a big SX fan. It was always a little stupid, in my opinion. It's a nice car, but I think a Model YL is just smarter. But the S, yeah. If there's a merger, Joe, how does that change your projections of Tesla share price for 2030? Well, that's very hard to do the math. I need to, all these merger topics and all the SpaceX topics, I need to wait for this thing to actually come out. I need to look at, we need to develop the SpaceX model and the Space AI model, because now it of course, turns into a totally new company where we have to also project all the space stuff. You don't think NVIDIA and their driving software helps keep the OEMs alive? No. No way. I think the OEMs are going to get into an absolute death struggle. I think per country, one is going to survive, maybe two. Of course, Germany is going to protect Volkswagen. Japan is going to protect Toyota. Who else can protect something? The Americans don't have to protect anyone. They have Tesla. So you can keep them alive because they're so important. I also do think they will be dragged over the finish line to become autonomous, at least one of them, but it will be a lot of state subsidies involved. They can't, like, out of their own power compete with Tesla. Could robotaxi scaling be internationally be delayed to keep the valuation low for now before SpaceX merger? I mean, the question whether they play these kinds of games, well, I don't know. I don't know. That's a good question. Normally, I would say they don't do these things, but this is such a huge operation. The reason why you don't want to play too many games with share price is there's too many unknown variables. You know, this is kind of implying you have SpaceX under control from an Elon perspective, you know exactly where the price lands, and then want to manipulate the Tesla price. I don't think that's how Elon thinks, because Elon's very smart and he understands this is not really plannable. There are way too many unknowns there. And if you start creating these dependency plans and something goes wrong, you're just looking dumb. I think they just want to push it forward as quickly as possible. Elon, of course, has some interest commercially because he has a much larger share in SpaceX to maximize SpaceX valuation when SpaceX eats Tesla, right? Because he has a smaller share in Tesla, a larger share in SpaceX. So the larger the share of SpaceX in the united entity is, the better for Elon. I think there is some bias maybe in there. But then actually planning this out is all very dangerous, and I don't think so, but who knows? Also, that would really screw over Tesla shareholders, by the way. Could robotaxi scaling be internationally related? No, we already had that. Okay, I think that's it for now. Now you have seen the new page, even though it's only half done, but I think by tomorrow it will be much more done. And that's not urgent. But that is it for now. We can wrap it up now. I hope that was interesting, that little session. We have a video coming out today, actually, on AGI. And then tomorrow, it's going to be a wild week. Macro, Iran, insanity. We are probably going to lose money. That's what's going to happen. But we cannot change that. It's going to be too tricky to trade this effectively. So we need to just stay cautious. I hope you guys are prepared for some tumultuous April weeks. We will track the situation, of course, close up and try to do our best to navigate that mess. And then we go from there. Thanks for joining. Go to pioneerlands.org. Join the spaces. Create button will be improved probably today. And then we continue. Thank you so much for joining, and see you very soon. Thank you, Brandon. Okay, see you guys.